Hey everyone, time for a Terran build order tutorial. This time we got GuMiHo showing off his 2-base 2 starport battlecruiser opener. It is a doozy, it's very cheesy, and it's very fun. So let's get into it. Send your first SEV to wall off with a 14 supply depot. You're not going to get a barracks. Stop it. If you're doing it, stop it. This is a command center first build. So just keep on building SCVs. Send one to the natural now. And get a 17 command center. Now go ahead and get your 18 barracks. $19 refinery. And a 20 refinery. Fill up the first one ASAP. And fill up the second gas. Barracks should be done, so start up a Reaper. Get your first orbital in the main, and then a second orbital at your natural. '23 factory. Reaper done. Add a reactor to the barracks. Remember to mule. In this game, GuMiHo uses the Reaper to scout around his third and fourth. Does not go across the map. Get your third and fourth gas geysers. A lot of gas in this build. Get a depot and swap the factory with the barracks and get a starport. Get your Hellions. You're gonna go up to 4 Hellions. Tech lab on the barracks. Supply depot. Start walling off your natural front. Make sure to get your next 2 Hellions. Make sure your gases are filled. And then grab a fusion core at 340. Swap the starport with the barracks. Get a Viking. Another starport. GuMiHo is faking cloak right now because he's being scouted. An option for you as well. Another depot. Depot. To further convince the Zerg player, start up a fake Banshee, but also make sure to start up YAMATO on the fusion core. Tech lab on the second starport. If there's no further case of you being scouted, go ahead and cancel the cloak and the Banshee. Another depot A lot of gas and a lot of supply here. Your 2 starports should have tech labs and should build their 2 battlecruisers at the same time, even if that includes stopping your SCVs for a hot second, but do make sure to start up SCV production again, too. 2 more supply depots. Start up HELLION production again. If you've been on 4, go up to more. Get your 3rd CC around 5:30. Another supply depot, but from here on out, just try not to get supply blocked. And another supply depot. Battlecruisers take a lot of supply. Your Hellions can move out at this stage, but you are still building more Hellions to even keep at home. In this case, GuMiHo sends all of his Hellions across the map. Total of 8. And 2 more battlecruisers. Commence the Hellion battlecruiser attack. So the battlecruisers probably warp into the main, or wherever you really like. I think it's going to be the most impactful. And the Hellions are also going to attack somewhere usually else. You can also pair up the 2 battlecruisers with the Hellions if you would like. Both have their merits. Since it is 2 battlecruisers, it is very unlikely the Zerg player is going to actually have appropriate defense. If the Hellions can't find any successful drone kills, just use them to clear up creep like you see GuMiHo doing. Back at home, grab an armory. You're still just building Hellions and battlecruisers. And SCVs. Your 3rd CC should be done. You can put that over on your 3rd. Get 2 factories back at home as well. Continue pressuring. You should have a lot of space with battlecruisers, honestly. Assuming you've kept them both alive. Now let's move on to the build discussion. Strengths. This is a rare opener, and it will surprise the opponent. Almost guaranteed. I say almost because this is one of those weird builds that is actually more likely to be defended against. Maybe not well, but still. In the lower leagues. Because 2 battlecruisers at once is very rare. Incredibly rare for the professional side. People raise your hands if you have been personally attacked by double battlecruiser openers in, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, whatever. It does happen a bit more, but I'd still say that it's on the rarer side. It also has a potential insta-kill, so if Zerg player just doesn't expect it, and they're not really, really good at the game, so they have kind of the smart, safe spores, and, decent amount of queens, and they're mindful enough to pile their queens together too, you can just straight up win. There's actually decent chance if it goes totally on scouted that you're going to win. Or at least do a lot of damage. So, actually in this game, GuMiHo, I believe, won basically off the attack. Just to give you a little insight into what can happen. It's got decent follow-up, so even though it is very dedicated, I mean, you did get 3rd and 4th geysers at like 5:30 or something insane. So your 3rd CC is not exactly super fast, and there's no non-battlecruiser safety option. Well, the good news is battlecruisers are basically safe in the early and even early-ish mid-game of Terran versus Zerg. It's a pretty low chance nowadays you're going to find a Zerg player who's going for a particularly fast Spire, who could then change their Muta plan of action into a Corruptor. And then even if they do go, okay, I have the appropriate options, I have the access to Corruptors, I mean, you gotta get a decent number of Corruptors. So if your battlecruisers can escape, they're probably on a lower economy than they would like, and the Corruptors, they're only going to be useful against the battlecruisers, which, if they got no roaches and no lings and no Nidus Stormtrooper and Queens along, like, what else can really happen? So I don't want to say it's the perfect build. It both aggresses and defends. No, that's not the case. There's a lot of repercussions if the opener doesn't work out, as far as more of like the mid game goes, where the Zerg player has taken some time to defend the battlecruisers, line up their ducks in a row, and then attack. Then that's where an unsuccessful opener will be very hard to roll out of. But otherwise, kind of in almost any mildly successful opener for the battlecruisers, you're going to be pretty well off, because the BCs protect against many of the Zerg follow-ups. So if they're like, oh, I got roaches, I'll build roaches across the map. Well, battlecruisers. I have a decent number of corruptors. Well, maybe you have to protect the battlecruisers, but mass repair, maybe some emergency missile turrets, simply the lack of anything else on the ground from the Zerg. 4 battlecruisers, which eventually we're going into, is going to defend against a lot. Now for the weaknesses, because again, I don't want to say this is the perfect build. It's really not. I will also add another strength just on the audio recording here. It's pretty easy to use. Battlecruisers and Hellions. Not the highest skill cap unit, I suppose. But yeah, let's move on to the weaknesses. So there's no scouting. If you guys picked up on that, there was no SCV scout, there was no Reaper scout, and even the Hellions didn't scout. No part of a typical Terran scout process happened in this game. So it's a gamble. It's just straight up a gamble. I mean, it's a gamble at any part of StarCraft, but again, let's be real. You can probably read into certain pros and say that's not likely they're going to do it. You can't do that on ladder. In fact, if anything, it's more likely you're going to be cheesed. Personally, I would suggest, this is more of a tips and tricks, but I would suggest that if you're below like GM basically, do one of the scouts. Do the SCV scout, actually. Go ahead. I think it'll still turn out relatively okay. But anyways, otherwise no scouting. Lack of early Hellion counts can hurt against Ling Swells. So I put this in here specifically because that's maybe the one kind of almost non-committed thing a Zerg could do to really screw you up. So if they're going into, you know, a roach attack, that's probably going to screw you up. But you could maybe... We can't even scout, there's no scouting. Yeah, that's probably going to screw you up, right? But the Ling Swell is one of those gotcha moments where it's more so depending on not actually being in control of your Hellions. So just keep that in mind. It's like what can hurt you right now. Lings and just Lings can also do so if you're only at those 2 Hellions at the beginning. But even if your board's at 4, 4 is kind of the perfect amount for good micro to work against X amount of Lings, but it's on the smaller side of that. You know, 6 or 8 puts you in a really comfy position against Lings. 4 is like, so just be wary. Be watching that natural for an attack. This is also easily scouted, so hopefully you guys are really getting the idea here that this is not that amazing of a build, really. But yeah, it's easily scouted. So the 3rd and 4th geysers, they can be scouted super easily. Super easily. The Overlord, it was in the back in this game, that could have scouted it if it just moved over to the like the right a little bit instead of the main base. A Ling could scout it, and that's pretty much the reason that GuMiHo kept his Reaper and his Hellions back at home, which I'll get into more with the tips and tricks. And then, yeah, pretty much the gases, really. And then, of course, if they have an Overlord speed opener, you're probably going to be screwed, too. And this is also non-macro oriented. So again, I said the follow-up was pretty okay, and I think it is, but don't be surprised when this doesn't feel good, you know? Some decent Terran players out there might know what I mean, kind of the difference of a 3rd slapping down as an orbital versus not an orbital, or on location 3rd command centers versus off location 3rd command centers. Something about it that really makes it feel clean, right? Well, with this type of build, that 3rd isn't particularly fast, not an orbital when it was transferred over. And you're not going to have a lot of that typical Terran production and setup. So it's going to probably feel clumpy, lumpy, whatever word. All right, guys. It's going to feel a bit weird, but assuming that you can kind of cover your 3rd base without much interruption, then it's not the worst either. So I just want to put in there, it's not macro-oriented. That's a lot of battlecruisers first and foremost, but it's actually not too bad to roll out of. We just had to see it really, truly contested in the professional side of things, because only GuMiHo seems to do it, and only so often. So now moving on to those tips and tricks. Use the first Reaper to check for scouting Lings and guard against Lings diving into the natural. So yeah, there you have it right off the bat. The Reaper was kept at home and only used to scout for the scouting Lings, because the 3rd and 4th gases are so easy to scout otherwise. So it would not stop 6 speedlings. It would not stop roaches. You know, I don't know. I was going to say a queen, but of course queen can't come across the map. The point is, it's going to be able to kill a couple of units. I guess the other thing it won't be able to do is stop maybe 2 or 4 Lings from just speeding on in. Like, literally, that is the only goal of the Zerg players, try and get to the main base and inadvertently get to the natural as well. But it will stop against the 1 Ling. The 1 Ling that's like, okay, I should try, because the Reaper's probably out on the map and before Hellions arrive. So the Reaper guards against that. And then the Hellions afterwards, staying at home for a little while, do also guard against further attempted Ling scouts. And also just kind of keep the Zerg in the dark a little bit more, like what's happening, why don't I see anything? Fake Cloak Banshee, as GuMiHo did to confuse Overlord scouts. I don't think I need to elaborate on this too much. If you know you're going to be scouted, start up the Cloak and then the Banshee. Hellions are still a scary part of the attack with BCs. I feel like a bit of a broken record with this, honestly, during my casts, but the Battlecruisers, whether they're 1 or 2, sometimes don't do the big damage. A lot of the times they just take away the queen presence and maybe a little bit of that mental presence as well from the Zerg player who's going, oh shit, Battlecruisers. So they don't protect their drone lines, so the Hellions can actually get in. So don't underestimate the Hellions just because you got 2 big bad Battlecruisers raining hell from above. Keeping Battlecruisers alive is very important. You say you should keep super expensive unit alive? I know. Mind-blowing, guys. But seriously, the BCs, only reason they had those strengths on the last slide was because they're alive. If they're not alive, they're not protecting you from a Ling Swell or a Roach attack or Queen Night Storm or something like that. So yeah, that is generally your first priority. If you teleport in and there's a Spire finishing and Corruptor's on the way, then okay, well maybe you just... That's bad luck right there, but otherwise that's it's more of a warning for the, I guess, really a gung-ho driver who's just running around with Battlecruisers to maybe take a chill pill and go back home before they actually die. Because even if you kill what looks to be all of the economy, if they were building something, if they're building 20, 30 roaches, and you let your Battlecruisers die because like, I did enough damage, well, you might still die. If you fear the Zerg is massing a Roach Corruptor bust, try turrets as your anti-air instead of Thors and Cyclones. So this is a really specific tip, but I thought it was very important to add in. As I had said earlier, the chances of kind of like an early to early mid game attack from the Zerg really working in someone with 2 to 4 Battlecruisers, I feel like it's kind of low. However, mid game and mid-late game, and of course late game, pretty much past that point, let's throw out the number maybe like 8 or 9 minutes, something like that. That's going to be where the Zerg, depending on how the opening went down, is able to get everything lined up to attack you. So at a certain point, assuming you didn't just win the game, get a GG, you're gonna have to worry about the Zerg getting some revenge. And one of the nastiest ones they can do is if they do handle things okay at the start and line up their ducks to hit the Corruptor Roach attack you might have seen from earlier, more mech-based years, then you might remember that, you know, that was maybe during a Cyclone meta, so they had Cyclones help shoot up, or maybe you remember seeing someone respond with Thors. Basically, it seems like, anyways, Terrans have pretty much agreed with this type of style of mech, basically, with Battlecruisers, then you are going to want to use missile turrets more than, not wasting money, but still affording these units. And the Cyclones, they don't do well super defensively. They don't do super well defensively because they need micro to really work, and they're just, you know, glass cannons. And then Thors are too expensive and too clunky. So, well, that can maybe work. I do advise, especially for such a clunky build as this economically, that's what I was looking for earlier. Clunky, not clumpy. The turrets are probably going to be the most effective. They're not really expensive, only cost minerals, right? And they don't need to be produced. You just need to pull some SCVs to build it. So they can be a very effective anti-corruptor measure, which means that your 2 to 4 Battlecruisers, especially with mass repair, can take on whatever is on the ground. So there you go. Just keep that in mind if you do end up having one of those games. It's like, I didn't know if I really did enough damage. Oh shit, that's a lot of Zerg. Okay, I need to prepare for this. Remember missile turrets. And that is it for the tips and tricks and the build order as well. Hopefully it gets you guys some MMR. Hopefully it gives you guys some fun games. If you want to go into mass Battlecruiser afterwards and it's fun for you, that's your prerogative. If you want to do what I think is the more fun thing and go 4 Battlecruisers into just straight up mech, that's also your prerogative. The point is, hopefully it is something that was worth your time watching, listening, and learning it. If you like the video, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, and I'll see you later for more build orders. Bye!